morning, America. Today is February 19th, 1979, and this is Joanne, and you're watching the Energy Crisis edition of 2020. We have a special guest on our show today, President Carter, and an average civilian from a hippie town called Half Moon Bay, California. How are you today, Mr. President?
I've been better. We are running out of juice to run the White House.
Yes, I'm aware of the energy issue. Do you blame yourself or the people?
While I don't believe in pointing a finger, it couldn't have been me because I've been wearing the sweater my mother knit me, so I don't have to turn up the heat. She shot a deer right in the back of the family peanut farm, and I'm wearing it right now.
Don't you get hot in the White House with your sweater on and heat on?
No, ma'am. Our energy crisis has me concerned, so I turn the heat down just for large sweaters.
Would you please explain the crisis to us?
Well, Americans have been taking advantage of the oil that we have with Middle Eastern countries, and we've been cut off. This is called an oil embargo.
What is your solution to this problem?
I would advise Americans to keep their thermostats at 65 degrees during the day and 55 degrees at night. This will save half the shortage of natural gas.
Yes, and how has that been working?
We still have this crisis, so you can connect with the dots yourself. I guess people like her don't want to listen to what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now let's hear Emma's thoughts about the energy crisis from the average hippie.
You need to relax, Mr. President. Everything will resolve itself through peace and love.
Okay, how do you look at the situation in such a relaxed way?
Yes, Emma. Are you going to pick a flower that solves all of our problems?
Well, now that you make that point, I agree. We should rely on the power from within, rather than the soul-killing oil that we steal from many other countries.
Well, that's a very interesting way to look at things.
I find it to be necessary. With other Americans wasting oil, it is important to spread the word of love. All the hate in the world can only hurt. The oil problem is brought on by hate and greed. We used oil, so they increase prices. We use less oil, prices will come down. That's right. I may shelters through smiley faces and peace signs, but Carter and I have the same message.
I truly have nothing to say in response to this.
Well, let me help you. If we don't save oil, there will be no more flowers for people like me to pick. If there are no flowers, then we can complain to suit-wearing people like you.
Can you please predict what the future has to hold for us in the order of who I care about more, Mr. President, then Emma?
Well, if I were a betting man, I would say that we are still going to be in an energy crisis. I bet it can be linked to a terrible recession, unemployment rates, and outsourcing jobs to foreign countries.
On a positive note, I bet that we provide most of our own oil. Also, I bet that people like me will both be wanted and hated at the same time, but instead of hippies, we will be called hipsters.
How about we take a moment to look at photos of what we will be like in 2013?
$6.32 for regular unleaded gas? This crisis is worse.
Holy flower power! How do people survive with these extreme gas prices? What happened to us? They lost all the vibe.
Well, that is just not pretty.
Moving on.
We need to do something now. We are using more energy than before. How is that possible? If we don't stop, nothing will be left.
I'm worried. I don't use oil, and I'm a hippie, and I'm worried.
At least we rely on ourselves for a little oil.
Yeah.
But we still need to rely more on ourselves. We only account for 39% of our oil. What would happen if there was another embargo? What would you do, Emma?
I don't know. I can't imagine doing a thing.
How about you, Joanne?
I truly don't know.
Exactly. If we do not control our oil consumption, everyone will be lost. We will be paying $15 for oil. Inflation will be worse, and we will outsource every job. Our 1979 energy crisis is what is causing all these problems.
Thank you, Mr. President. Why don't you think people have not solved the problem?
People don't know the true problems caused by the crisis. If people knew all about the negativity, there would never have been such problems. Sometimes people do need to get a little hippie in them. We need to control our oil.
That is a very interesting point, Mr. President. Do you feel a certain way about the wide range of people?
I assume you're talking about the gray area between businessmen and hippie flower powers. In which case, I believe the gray area is where everyone needs to be. You don't need to be a hippie to conserve energy. If businessmen cut down on energy, then the prices will go down. If it comes down enough, then hippies won't need to conserve as much energy as well. Basically, the perfect amount of energy is between a hippie and a businessman.
I somewhat agree. If people are overly conservative, that seems oil. I think that everyone wasting oil should be more like us. If we are still conserving oil and they use less oil, we'll be better off than when everyone used some oil. My friends all use very little energy, so we aren't affecting the crisis. But people with huge houses and resting fleas use more than the oil everyone needs. If you, Mr. President, focus on those people, energy crisis can be solved.
All right. Thank you, Emma and Mr. President. Today we have learned many things about our energy crisis. This is a personal message from everyone here at 2020. Please conserve energy. Whether you are a hippie or businessman, you need oil. We need everyone's help. The only way to solve the problem is if everyone gets involved. By getting involved, we will rely less on oil and more on other options. These options include wind energy, hydropower, solar power, etc. All these are viable options for energy and will cut down oil use. Until next time, have a great day, America, and remember to conserve those resources.